Nasty Nate dominated in Tampa Bay to help the Rangers win their first road series of the year, but he did it in a way that everyone didn't expect. Plus, we got some more bad news about Josh Jung's injury. All that and more on this episode of Locked On Rangers. Let's get into it.
You are Locked On Rangers, your daily Texas Rangers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
You are locked onto the World Series champion Texas Rangers. I'm Bryce Patrick, a cripplingly addicted Texas Rangers fan covering this team for 11 seasons, including all 6 as the founder and host of this podcast. Thank you all so much for making Locked On Rangers your first listen every single day. If you're not already, you can follow me on Twitter at Bryce Patrick. You can follow the show at Locked On Rangers. Hit subscribe on your favorite podcasting platform and on YouTube, where the best way you can help grow the show is to comment nearly any single thing below. Now, before we get into Nasty Nate's exceptional performance to start off the Rangers road season pretty darn well, this episode is brought to you by eBay Motors. From brakes to exhaust kits and beyond, eBay Motors has over 122 million parts to keep your ride or die alive. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to bring home that win. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only, exclusions apply. eBay guaranteed fit, only available to U.S. customers. Now, the story of the day on Wednesday was Nasty Nate. Coming up big game Nate the dog, Eovaldi, absolutely dominating in Tampa Bay. Yet again, what a sight. We saw it last October. We saw it this April. It is the same thing every time Nate Eovaldi goes against these Rays. He has been absolutely exceptional. 7 innings of shutout baseball, just 1 walk, 4 hits, 8 strikeouts. Which sounds like a Nasty Nate line. No home runs, no, just 1 walk. That is what we love to see. Not a lot of home runs, not a lot of walks from Nate, going at hitters, getting weak contact, getting enough swings and misses. Not going to get you a whole lot of 12 strikeout games, Nasty Nate, but he'll get you a good 8, 9, some 10 strikeout games. And this one he did in a non-traditional way. Now, every pitcher will tell you, well, most pitchers will tell you, outside of knuckleballers, they won't tell you this. But the vast majority of pitchers will tell you everything plays off the fastball. It's all about the fastball. If the fastball is good, if everything is working like it should with the fastball, then it sets up everything else. And that's kind of the case with Nate Eovaldi. A lot of it revolves around his fastball velocity. In this game, he was averaging 95.8 miles an hour with the fastball. It's good. It's good. It's about where you want it with him, around 95, 96. Start to get any lower, then everything gets a lot less effective. But the real pitch of the day was the splitter. He threw it 44 times, almost double the amount he threw anything else. 103 pitches on the day, 44 splitters, 26 four-seam fastballs, 17 cutters, 15 curveballs, and 1 slider. And he got a swing and a miss on every type of pitch that he threw, including that 1 slider. 1 swing, 1 miss, 1 pitch. Fantastic. But the whiffs on the splitter were fantastic. 13 whiffs on that splitter. That is the most he has ever had in a game. It's the second highest percentage of splitters he has thrown in a game, and the second most just number of splitters, of 44, that he has thrown in a game. That splitter was working to perfection against this Rays lineup that's a little aggressive, a little bit likes to chase out of the zone. And that splitter, when it's working off of that fastball, it looks like it's going to be a strike. It usually looks like it's going to be a good strike until it's just too late and it just nosedives into the dirt. That's what the best splitters do. And there aren't a whole lot of pitchers that use splitters super effectively. And so when you're able to have that splitter, and it's a good splitter like Nate Eovaldi does, it works pretty darn well. I think we'll start seeing a little bit more splitters this year, especially with so many great Japanese pitchers that are coming over. They throw a lot more splitters in Japan. It is a difficult pitch to learn, but for some reason in Japan, they have perfected the art of the splitter. I mean, Masahiro Tanaka is the one that taught Eovaldi how to throw that splitter when they were both on the Yankees together. And so since he started using it, he has been a much more effective pitcher, not just a pure velo guy, pure stuff guy. And he picked up the cutter when he was in Tampa Bay. He was only there for, 10 starts? I think he might have been there when he was hurt, the season that he missed the entire year before he ended up in Boston. But he picked up that cutter, he picked up that splitter along the way, and it's made him a much more effective pitcher. This is a guy who is the big game pitcher. In terms of who I'd want on the hill in a must-win game, there's not a whole lot of guys I'd pick ahead of Nathan Eovaldi. Yeah, there are guys with better stuff. Yeah, there are guys who strike more guys out. But in terms of just the raw competitiveness and the ability to get himself out of jams and the ability to come up when the Rangers need him most time and time and time again, which the Rangers will need him a lot this season early on while they're waiting for those reinforcements, and especially after Josh Jung just went down, and especially when the guy on the other side was dealing. Aaron Civale looked fantastic this one. Just one run for him in 6 innings, and that came off of a Corey Seager home run that had an expected batting average below 200, which is not something you can say a whole lot about home runs very often, especially Corey Seager home runs, because he usually doesn't get cheaped out. Yeah, a 170 expected batting average, a home run in only 16 of 30 parks. Still a hard hit ball, 95 miles an hour, but Corey Seager kind of snuck that first home run over the fence. But Nate Eovaldi saw what was going on the other side. It's like, all right, guys, you got me 1 run. That's all you need. That's all you need from me. And he gave you 7 innings. The Rangers didn't have to use that much of the ace out of their bullpen. They did have to use David Robertson, who came in and was bailed out a little bit by his defense. Not as much Jonah Heim stealing strikes or blocking balls because he had a wild pitch that got away from him that allowed the runner to get to second base, but the defense at third base, the defense in right field. This is one of the first times that I remember seeing Adolis Garcia's arm in right field prevent a run. Once you get that reputation, once people know, people are finally starting to learn to not run on Adolis Garcia. It only took them 3 years of him having one of the best throwing arms in the outfield in Major League Baseball, but I think teams are finally starting to do it. And as much fun as it is to watch him gun down a runner at home plate or at third or trying to take any extra base anywhere, the ability to hold up runners, to prevent runs because of your reputation and because hitters know not to take that extra base. There's a single with a runner on second base, and Curtis Mead rounded third and then held up because Adolis Garcia got to that ball so quickly. And that's what ended up being the difference in the Rays tying it up in the bottom of the 8th inning and the Rays not tying it up, is that defense. And then at third base, a pretty well-struck ball, a pretty difficult ball to get to. Zeke Duran gets to that ball at third base pretty deep and pretty far throw for Randy Rose to try and gun out Randy Rosarena, and he does it. Because Zeke Duran's got an incredible arm. And by the way, he's perfectly capable of playing good, even third base defense. Much less passable, but at least good. He's probably not going to be Josh Jung there with how he is making reads and how aggressively he is, charging balls and things like that. Zeke Duran's got a much better arm than Josh Jung. Jung has made himself into an exceptional defender at third base, but Zeke Duran is fine there. More than fine there. And Josh Smith making some pretty good plays at shortstop as well, seeing both of those guys in the lineup in the field and both of them coming through for this Ranger squad. But I love David Robertson. I love the comfortableness that I feel when he is on the mound. You pretty much know exactly what you're going to get with David Robertson. There's not a whole lot of highs and lows. It's not a high wire act like watching Chapman was last year or watching Jose Leclerc was for the regular season last year and the regular season this year. But I have loved what I've seen from Robertson. He's actually the Rangers' number 3 leader in Baseball Reference WAR through 6 games in the season at .5 WAR. I'm sure you can guess who number 1 is. It's Josh Jung at .7 WAR. Nate Eovaldi at .6 WAR. Fun little early season tidbits there. But Jose Leclerc coming in what was a 4-run game because the Rangers were able to get some insurance runs in the top of the 9th inning. Made it a high wire act, but got out of it. Wasn't a saved situation. But, hey, he didn't give up any walks. He did give up a run, but he got out of it. And I think we all need to push the calm the heck down button on Jose Leclerc because it has been a week. We have been a week into this season. It has not been pretty for Leclerc so far, but he got out of there with the win, and that's the job. And, yeah, it's a little shaky early on. Yeah, his command has been a little wobbly, and that's what he does. He wobbles early on in the season. Maybe he gets taken out of the closer role for the first couple of months, and that's fine. And then he gets back into form in September, earns back that closer's role, and then is dominant again in October, because we've seen what this guy can do on the biggest stage when things are working. So let's just push the pause button on jumping off a bridge because of Jose Leclerc. The Rangers have won both their opening series. They're 2-1 on the road. They have beaten two teams that will probably be in the playoffs this year, and they are heading to a massive series against Houston, while Houston is in the absolute cellar. So let's just chill out about freaking out about Jose Leclerc. Coming up, we're talking about what the Rangers offense did in this one. Some impressive at-bats, lefty on lefty. And then later on, we'll talk about Josh Jung and this big old series against the Houston Astros. Right after this word from our sponsors. This episode is brought to you by eBay Motors. Passion, drive, and patience. The formula for winning championships is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. Superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into power, speed, or style, eBay Motors has you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to make your car the MVP and bring home the huge wins. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only, exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit only available to U.S. customers. This episode is also brought to you by Gametime. Buying tickets to your favorite events, it shouldn't be stressful. Normally it is such a hassle with other ticketing apps, trying to figure out where your seats are, how to get those tickets, and how much anything is going to cost. But Gametime is the best way to get all of your tickets, and Gametime is now an authorized ticket marketplace for Major League Baseball, which makes getting tickets even easier and faster. Prices on the Gametime app usually actually go down the closer it gets to first pitch. With killer last-minute deals, all-in prices, views from your seat, and their lowest price guarantee, Gametime takes the guesswork out of buying MLB tickets. Save up to 60% off buying last-minute tickets for sports, concerts, comedy, theater, and more. You can save even more with exclusive in-app deals on select seats ahead of games or the event. Save even more when you choose a section and let Gametime choose the seats. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime. For limited time, all users can get $20 off any MLB purchase of $150 or more in the Gametime app with code FIRSTPITCH. Terms apply. That's code FIRSTPITCH for $20 off from March 25th to April 14th only. Download Gametime today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. Shout out to the everydayers for making Locked On Rangers your first listen every single day. On tomorrow's show, I'll be talking about the Rangers minor league season, what to look for, and some things that I learned from Frisco Rough Riders Media Day yesterday. Boy, am I excited for this Rangers minor league season to go ahead and get started. Now, the Rangers offense did just enough in yesterday's game. They were facing off against Aaron Eovaldi, who is a very good pitcher, only able to grind out 4 runs in this one, but this offense is still exceptional. 35 runs in the first 6 games, averaging nearly 6 runs a game. This team, this offense, does enough to get wins, no matter who they're facing. That is what this offense has always done. Pouring on some insurance runs late would have been nice to scatter them throughout the day, but hey, you get runs when you can get them, including getting them off of Corey Seager's first home run of the season. A little surprised it took this long, but hey, the backbone of great seasons is built on a lot of singles. And Corey Seager last year had quite a few singles, like almost as many as those pop-up ads or advertising are in your area. Corey Seager gets a lot of them, and last year it took him a little while to find that power stroke. Before he went on the injured list, which it was only couple of weeks before he went on the injured list the first time last year, it took him some time to get those extra base hits, to start getting those home runs, to start lifting the ball a little bit more with authority. He's still hitting the absolute crap out of the baseball, had the hardest hit ball of the day yesterday at 106.9 miles an hour off the bat, and of course that was a single through the infield, because of course it was, because Corey Seager just absolutely mashes and rakes and hits the absolute tarnation out of the baseball. And that's what he will continue to do. I think he will start to get a few more home runs as we move on later on into the season. Again, it's only been 6 games, and home runs usually come in bunches. So now he's got that first one out of the way, and it was a little bit of a cheapie by Corey Seager standards. I'd imagine that he might get some this weekend against the Houston Astros. And maybe, just maybe, Wyatt Langford saving his home runs for the Houston Astros. I'm very surprised that he hasn't had his first home run yet, Wyatt Langford. He had an 0 for 4 day with a couple of strikeouts, including one on a, let's just say, very generous call by the home plate umpire on a full count that definitely should have been ball four for Wyatt Langford, but he apparently is getting the Josh Jung zone from 2023, which is not a good zone. And I think that's part of why Josh Jung struck out so much last year, is because he was getting just none of the calls. I don't know what these two have done to umpires to make them not get those calls, besides just being rookies, but it felt a little personal at times with Jung last year. And it also feels very personal with umpires with Jonah Heim in the, I'll say it, the most obvious bad call, just horrible, no good, very bad call, again against Jonah Heim. This just keeps on happening with Jonah ever since that headset home run celebration after the garbage call last year on a run given to the White Sox that ended up being the difference in the game last year in Chicago, where Jonah Heim was apparently obstructing the plate, even though he very much wasn't, and that let the go-ahead run score. Jonah Heim gets a 3-run homer in the next game, does the headset review celebration to celebrate, and then ever since then, it feels like umpires have just had it out for him. There was a compilation that I saw on Twitter that I retweeted on my profile that had all these different moments of Jonah Heim versus umps. There was a clear foul tip that was dropped in the ALCS last year that went against Jonah Heim. There was that foul tip against the Cubs on opening night that everyone saw and was absolute garbage. And then there was this play, which was the most egregious of them all. A ball where he lined it into the glove of the shortstop that immediately dropped it, Jose Caballero. Right then, the Rangers could have added even more on. At that point, they had already gotten really great at-bats, lefty on lefty, I should add, from Jared Walsh, who had a double that set up the rally against a lefty. Then Josh Smith had a 2 RBI single against a lefty, and he's hit about 150, maybe 170 against lefties in his major league career, because he hasn't had that many opportunities. But now with these injuries, he's going to get some more opportunities, and good on Josh Smith for coming through with a big 2 RBI hit, scoring 2 of the 3 runs. The other run came off of Marcus Semion's bat. There could have been more, but Jonah Heim lines this ball into the glove of Jose Caballero, who does not catch it. He does not catch it. It goes into the glove and out immediately. And all the umpires turn around and look at each other like, okay, that wasn't a catch. That's not an out. What are you doing? What is going on here? And because it was ruled a catch on the field, it's not reviewable. It's not reviewable. There's nothing you can do. Just an obvious missed call that everybody knows is a missed call. The umpires can get together and talk about it and say, yeah, that was a missed call, and then that's it. And I saw nothing after the game, even attempting to explain what was the most obvious missed call I think I might have ever seen in a Major League Baseball game. Outside of balls and strikes, I thought we saved the what is a catch thing for football. I thought we didn't have to do that in baseball. I thought that was pretty clear. We knew what a catch was and wasn't. There's no baseball move that somebody needs to make. There is no, 2 steps in possession inbounds and carry it all the way to the ground or whatever it is in football. We didn't have to do that in baseball. But apparently we're doing that in baseball now with this just egregious miscall against Jonah Heim. And maybe it's just dumb luck, and maybe it's nothing personal against Jonah Heim. But at this point, I feel like the Jonah Heim versus umpires rivalry is hitting new heights, because this is just stupid. This is absolutely stupid and embarrassing and so incredibly frustrating. I get so fed up with umpires because it feels like just the most pointless thing to whine about, because there's never anything that any of us can do. If an umpire shot a guy in the face in a Major League Baseball game, I don't know that there would be a single disciplinary action to be like, I don't know, maybe the guy said something, maybe he was asking for it, whatever. There's just nothing that these guys can't get away with, and there is never any repercussions, any discipline, anything that comes out of a Major League Baseball umpire just absolutely biffing a call to the highest degree, to the lowest degree, to any degree. There's no comeuppance ever. And so it feels like shouting into the wind. But this is a podcast, and sometimes podcasts are made for shouting into the wind. Coming up, I'm going to shout into the wind about Josh Jung's injury, how it's worse than we initially thought, and to look forward at this series against Houston. Right after this word from our sponsors. This episode is brought to you by PrizePicks. Spring training is over and baseball season is officially underway. Don't miss your chance to add your favorite players from the diamond in your PrizePicks entries. Whether it's strikeouts, RBIs, or first inning runs, take your pick of more or less and then add them to your PrizePicks entry today. Testing your skills on PrizePicks this baseball season is the most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. If you have the skills, you can turn $10 into $100 with just a few taps. Make quick withdrawals, easy gameplay, and an enormous selection of players and stat types. That's what makes PrizePicks the number one fantasy sports app. PrizePicks also offers weekly promotions and special offers from the biggest moments in sports. PrizePicks now offers Apple Pay for quick and easy deposits into your account this baseball season. So download the app today. Use code LOCKEDONMLB for a first deposit match up to $100. Again, download that app today. Use code LOCKEDONMLB for a first deposit match up to $100. PrizePicks. Pick more, pick less. It's that easy. Now, the Rangers got some bad news on Josh Jung's injury. He had the surgery. Surgery was successful in Arizona, the same surgeon that performed his thumb surgery last year. But once they got in there, they saw the damage was a little bit worse than they initially expected, and he is going to miss 8 to 10 weeks as opposed to 6 to 8 weeks. Now, that's not great. That is a huge bummer of news for Josh Jung in a situation that already sucked. It was already no fun, no good, and I'm sure he's extra pissed that he's going to miss this series against Houston. The two big series early on in the season that he is going to miss. That's against Houston. That's not great, but I am sure he is going to come back healthy as ever, mashing and absolutely ready to prove himself as one of the best third basemen in the league, which he was on pace to do. He was absolutely on pace to do that this year. I mean, before he got hurt in those 4 games, a slash line of 412, 478, 941, a 1415 OPS, 2 homers, a triple, a double. Also had a stolen base. I mean, this guy was mashing. It is deeply unfair and deeply sucks that this guy is going to miss even more time. I felt like initially the things that I looked up, it was going to be multiple months minimum. Now it seems like that's the case, but at least it's not worst case scenario where it's going to be 3 months or 4 months or anything like that. At least it's hopefully just going to be 8 to 10 weeks. The Rangers will need to tread water without him, and they can do so with Zeke Duran, with Josh Smith, and maybe a little bit of Justin Foscue. We'll see how much playing time he gets and where he gets it, but this offense is still going to mash, and hopefully it is going to mash against those stinking Houston Astros. Come to town for a 4-game series, a wraparound series starting Friday, ending on Monday. And the Astros come into town with the winning streak at Globe Life Field. Now, they did not win the ALCS, which is all that matters. The Rangers have a 4-game winning streak in Houston. 5-game active winning streak at Minute Maid Park. But the Astros have an 8-game winning streak in Arlington. Those 3 games in the ALCS in Arlington, they won all of them. Those 3 games in September in a critical series, they beat the snot out of the Rangers. And then there was another 4-game series in the middle of the year in Arlington where the Rangers only won 1 of those games, but at least it wasn't a 4-game sweep, including the wildest game of baseball in the regular season I have seen in some time in that 12-11 loss where the Rangers came back from down 8 runs and still ended up losing. But this is a big matchup against a team that you are going to be going head-to-head with for the entire season. There's a reason I was standing watching and laughing at the first 4 games where the Astros got mopped. Not just swept, but mopped, a term coined by the Cespedes family barbecue. A 4-game sweep is a mop in the regular season by those New York Yankees to start the year. Then they come out of the gates against Toronto, and, well, they end that home losing streak. They beat the snot out of the Blue Jays in 2 out of 3 games, including getting a no-hitter from a guy you've never heard of, probably, in Ronel Blanco. Now, here's how the pitching matchups go this weekend. They will be Friday, Hunter Brown versus Cody Bradford. Saturday, the dangerous TBD versus John Gray. Sunday, the no-hitter hero, Ronel Blanco versus Dane Dunning. And Sunday, Framber Valdez versus Andrew Heaney. I'm very much looking forward to that Heaney-Valdez matchup. I think that could be where we see Justin Foscue make his first start of the season. But looking at this baseball reference page for the Houston Astros in the year of our Lord, 2024, I don't particularly know how they have lost, so many games. So many games. I mean, they are 2-5 at this point, tied for 5th place with the Oakland A's. Savor it as much as you can, because I don't think they're going to stay there for very long. The offense just lit the world on fire in 2 of those 3 games against Toronto. The Rangers have decent starting pitching, and it's a bummer that Nate Eovaldi is not going to go against those Houston Astros, because we have seen what he can do against them and how effective he can be there in the ALCS. Hopefully he can be, effective against them if he faces them this year, which I'm sure he will at some point. But for now, we settle for Brown versus Bradford. We'll see if Cody Bradford can maintain what he did in that Saturday game against a dangerous Cubs offense, getting a bunch of swings and misses with the fastball, throwing that curveball for strikes. This is a dangerous offense, and they could end up battering Bradford around a little bit, but Hunter Brown has been very homer prone in his career so far, especially last year, not so much this year. But the thing that has lost Houston a lot of these games is their bullpen, which is just chef's kiss, delightful. Y'all remember this offseason when they happened to sign Josh Hader for 5 years, $90 million? I do. I remember how it was deemed, this is the best bullpen that's ever been assembled. There's no way that it could ever blow any saves. It would be the greatest bullpen that we've ever seen. And let's look at those big 3 that they have in their bullpen. Josh Hader, 4 games, 4 innings, a 6.75 ERA, no saves, 1 blown save, and a tie game where he was saddled with the loss. So 2 losses for him. Let's look at Ryan Presley, the guy who was their closer beforehand. 3 games, 2 1/3 innings, 7.71 ERA, 1 loss. And then our favorite, Brian Abreu, serving a 2-game suspension at the start of the season instead of in the ALCS, because of course that makes so much sense. But he came back and he promptly allowed a go-ahead home run and the loss in his first outing. And in his second outing, he was not great either. 11.57 ERA in 2 1/3 innings for Mr. Brian Abreu. This bullpen that, could not be touched. I think eventually they will come back down to their career norms. I don't think Josh Hader's going to have a 6.75 ERA for the full season, but we literally just saw it a couple years ago where he had an ERA over 4, a 4.22 ERA, a 5.22 ERA for the season in 2022. A 7 ERA with the Padres and a 4.20 ERA with Milwaukee. I mean, this guy has been one of the better closers for most of his career, but the odd blow-up year, it's not beyond him by any means. And again, I've said this a million times, bullpens are finicky, and when you spend so much money on the bullpen, which the Astros did, spending $90 million on a closer, and not to mention their other big free agent acquisition. This is not a team that usually spends a whole lot in free agency. It's usually homegrown talent, and unfortunately, Yainer Diaz and Jeremy Pena are looking like that so far. Pena snapped that 0 for 800 or however many plate appearances. He hasn't had a home run since July of last year. He has got 2 now. Abreu is the guy who I was talking about, the big free agent signing. The MVP, the bought, not built. Well, the guys they bought have been crap. That's why it's built, not bought. And also they're paying Altuve quite a bit of money. He has been money. But Jose Abreu, the other big free agent addition they've had these last couple of years. 6 games so far. Slash line of 105, 190, 105, a 296 OPS, a negative 10 OPS plus, negative 10 where 100 is league average. He has been that bad. And John Singleton behind him hasn't been much better. The other first baseman that they're using. These are the two guys that they spend a lot of money on. That's a good sign for the Rangers if these guys who they do end up spending money on don't end up working out. But this is still a dangerous, talented team. This lineup is incredibly good. Kyle Tucker, Yordan Alvarez. I mean, you go down the list and pretty much everybody's hitting like crazy outside of Altuve and outside of Bregman. Of the guys who are playing every day, pretty much everyone else is lighting it up. Now, granted, it's a couple of games that really boosted those numbers. They weren't hitting like crazy until they dropped, 10 runs on Toronto on Monday and then 8 runs on Toronto on Wednesday. This will be a very, very good matchup. Good to see where this Rangers pitching staff actually stacks up. I think that Ronald Blanco will probably not throw another no-hitter. Valdez, I think, is definitely fallible. We don't know if Christian Javier is going to start on Saturday. I think that's where his spot is in the rotation. At this point, it's listed as TBD, or maybe he started on Wednesday's game. Not entirely sure. I think he might have started on Wednesday's game. That's why we won't see him in the series. But this Astros pitching staff right now is still banged up, just like the Rangers pitching staff. Their hitters are hitting. Their bullpen is fallible at this moment. So we will see how this series goes. I know the Rangers don't want to have a active 12-game winning streak for the Houston Astros to have a 12-game winning streak to get mopped in Arlington by the Astros. But even if that happens, again, the name of this season, stay around 500 until June when those reinforcements start to come back. We'll see Max Scherzer at some point in late May, and you'd like to really get these early series against the Astros, especially when their bullpen is struggling early. If you can hang in this series, go for a split. If the Rangers can win this series, that will be huge, but going for a split, that is my hope for this series. Hopefully this Rangers offense can liven a little bit. We can see Wyatt Langford's first home run of the season in his career. We could see hopefully Marcus Semion's first home run of the season. And hopefully whoever's filling in for Josh Jung at third base can absolutely rake, just like the young man that is waiting for his spot to come back from that injury. Wish it wasn't going to be 8 to 10 weeks, but hey, Rangers will tread water. They will be fine. And I am really looking forward to this regular season series. And then again, doing it again next weekend in Houston. Hopefully the Rangers can head into there and extend their 5-game active winning streak in Houston to maybe 8 games. But we'll see. Big matchup early. Let's not put too much stock into it, but it's going to be fun to see these teams who very much hate each other play a fun weekend of baseball. That's going to do it for today's show. I'll be back tomorrow talking about what to look for in this minor league season. But until next time, don't forget to enjoy World Series champion Texas Rangers baseball.